Hi guys, how are you today? Welcome back to my channel Adventures in America. If you are new to my channel, my name is Jocelyn, and for today's topic, I'm going to discuss the latest US travel restrictions, including a new policy regarding a specific mask that you needed to wear when flying to the US. But before we get started, please like this video, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. I always welcome new subscribers. Many are asking if US is open for international tourism or if US is open for vaccinated and unvaccinated passengers. Currently, US is open for international tourism, except for those travelers who are included in the travel ban. However, there is some great news regarding those travelers included in the travel ban. The Biden administration has announced that the travel ban will be lifted for fully vaccinated passengers by early November. Now to the question of vaccinated and unvaccinated passengers. Yes, vaccinated passengers are allowed to travel in the US, including unvaccinated passengers. So that means if you have been vaccinated for a specific brand of vaccine that is not being administered in the US, you can still be accepted in the US because vaccinated and unvaccinated passengers are allowed in the US. Now, there is a new policy for intending immigrants and those who will adjust their status in the US starting October 1st. A COVID vaccine is now required for US immigrants, and the mechanics and the full information has been released by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. I actually have a full video regarding the COVID-19 vaccine for immigrants to the US. I'll recommend that you check it out if you have any other questions. Now, there is a new policy regarding mask requirements being issued by the U.S. Transportation Security Administration, or TSA. So effective September 14, there is now a specific type of mask that you should use when traveling to the U.S. The U.S. Transportation Security Administration issued an emergency amendment which requires wearing of mask in and on airports, on commercial aircrafts, and in various modes of surface transportation to reduce the spread of virus due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. The requirement is applicable to all passengers on board a commercial aircraft. This mask requirement is applicable to all crews and passengers, including vaccinated and unvaccinated passengers. This new mask requirement is effective September 14, 2021 until January 18, 2022. Now, I'm going to discuss the specific type of masks that are allowed. First, masks can be either be manufactured or homemade and should be a solid piece of material without slits, exhalation valves, or punctures. Now, what type of masks are allowed? Medical mask and N95 mask fulfill this requirement. A properly worn mask must completely cover the nose and the mouth of the wearer. However, there are certain categories of persons exempt from wearing a mask. First, children under the age of 2. Second, people of disabilities who cannot wear a mask or cannot safely wear a mask because of the disability as defined by the Americans with Disabilities Act. Third, people for whom wearing a mask would create a risk to workplace health, safety, or job duty as determined by the relevant workplace safety guidelines or federal regulations. Now, here are the specific requirements for those eligible to travel in the US. First, all passengers coming to the US, including US citizens and vaccinated persons, must have a negative COVID test within 3 days before flying. Or you must have a documentation of recovery from COVID from the past 3 months or 90 days. Now, the passengers are 2 years old and above for this negative test requirement or proof of recovery. Now, let's talk about the requirements for negative COVID test. So the negative pre-departure test could be a viral test such as an RT-PCR test or an antigen that was conducted on a specimen collected within 3 days prior to flight departure from a foreign country. The negative COVID-19 test or negative viral test must be approved or authorized by the relevant national authority for the detection of SARS-CoV-2. Now, there are specific wordings for this negative COVID test. The qualifying test result documentation confirm the personal identifiers such as the name and birth on the negative qualifying test result match the personal identifiers on the passport or other travel documents. The specimen was collected within 3 days prior to the flight's departure. The test performed was a viral test, and the test result states negative SARS-CoV-2, RNA not detected, or SARS-CoV-2 antigen not detected, or COVID-19 not detected. A test marked invalid is not acceptable. Also, there are some comments from the viewers asking if a certificate of quarantine is enough proof to come to the US. The answer is no. A certificate of quarantine cannot be used in lieu of a negative test or proof of recovery. Now, let's talk about the proof of recovery requirements. So, if a passenger has recovered from COVID-19, there are important requirements that you must do or submit as a proof of documentation. A passenger must provide a written documentation of recovery from COVID-19 after infection in the form of a positive viral test and a letter from a licensed healthcare provider or public health official stating that the passenger has been cleared. So that means that you must have a positive test result to submit the proof of recovery and a letter from a healthcare provider. The document of recovery from COVID-19 means that the passenger has presented documentation of a positive test result and a signed letter on official letterhead that contains the name, the address, and phone number of a licensed healthcare provider or public health official stating that the passenger has been cleared for travel. So any flight to the US, even if your connecting flight is in the US, must have a negative COVID test or proof of recovery. There are no exceptions. Now, let's talk about the quarantine requirements. Fully vaccinated passengers do not need to quarantine in the US. For those unvaccinated, the quarantine is 14 days, but you can do the quarantine in a rental facility or a hotel or at home. However, the quarantine requirements for unvaccinated passengers are only recommendatory and not mandatory in nature. Also, all arriving passengers in the US are recommended to get tested within 3 to 5 days after arrival. The countries included in the travel ban are China, Iran, European Schengen area, United Kingdom, Republic of Ireland, Brazil, and South Africa, and India. However, there are exceptions to the travel ban. First, if you are a US citizen or a permanent resident coming from the list of countries in the travel ban, you may be allowed to enter in the US. Another type of exception is the national interest exception. So that means immigrant and K visa holders, effective immediately in accordance with the Department of State blanket national interest exceptions, all immigrant visa regardless of class, and K1, K2, K3, and K4 visa holders may seek entry to the US. However, other ineligibility grounds may apply in individual cases. Also, the labor restrictions have been removed by virtue of several presidential proclamations. Non-immigrant HIB, H2B, L1, and J1 visas. So travelers in possession of H, L, and J visas are permitted to enter the US, regardless of visa issuance. Now, travelers in possession of a valid H, L, and J visas are still subject to travel restrictions under presidential proclamations for China, Iran, Schengen area, UK, Ireland, Brazil, and South Africa. Now, there is an advisory for US citizens with an expired passport. You can now travel back to the US with an expired passport until December 31st, 2021. However, there are specific requirements. US citizens will be able to use their expired US passports to return to the US through December 31st. US citizens who are overseas, whose passport expired on or after January 1st, 2020, may be able to use their expired US passport for direct return travel to the US. However, if you have an expired passport, you cannot travel to any foreign country, destination, or territory. There are specific requirements that you must meet in order to avail of this special privilege for US citizens with an expired passport. First, you are a US citizen. Second, you are currently abroad, seeking to return to the US. And third, they are flying, or the US citizen must be flying directly to the US or a US territory, or only have a short-term transit through a foreign country on their return to the US or to a US territory. And the original or expired passport was valid for 10 years, or if they were 15 years of age or under when the passport was issued, their expired passport was originally valid for 5 years. Also, the expired passport must be in an undamaged and in their possession. Also, it has been announced that there will be a next generation US passport. So what does it mean? The United States has begun to issue the next generation US passport. Passports are distinguished by the color of the passport cover as well as annotations. All other security features remain the same throughout all types of passport book. So that means if you have a previously issued US passport, it is still valid until the expiration date. Again, thank you guys for tuning into my channel, and if you have any other questions or comments, please post them down below and I will get back to you as soon as I can. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. I always welcome new subscribers. I hope everyone is staying safe, and I'll see you in my next video.